Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I will be showing you how to knit a simple scarf. So I recently got gifted this yarn. I want to make something out of it and gift it back. And I finally decided on a simple scarf. So I thought I would just show you guys at the same time how to make a scarf. So to make it the simplest scarf you can make, I'm just going to use one stitch for the whole project. So I'll be using circular needles, but that's only because I can't find my straight needles. So I'll be using these, but as straight needles. So I'm just gonna pretend this is a long straight needle, and that's the other one, and that they're not connected here. So just don't worry about this. If you're using straight needles, that's totally fine. Since the yarn doesn't give me recommended needle size, I'm gonna need to try different needles. If your yarn calls for a specific needle size, you should use that size. You can use different needles and see if you like the tension of the stitches. If it's a bit tight, you can switch to bigger needles. If it's too loose, too many holes in there, you can switch to smaller needles. So this is 7mm. I think it's a bit too tight, so I'm gonna go up a millimeter. I'm gonna switch to 8mm. Besides your yarn and needles, you will also need scissors, a yarn needle. You might also need a tape measure, but this is optional. Also, just in case you're wondering, because the yarn changes colors, this color pattern is normal considering the stitch we're using. So the cast on I used is long tail cast on, so I left about 1 meter, and then I made a slip knot. And then insert your needle in the loop with a long tail closer to you. And then to long tail cast on, grab the yarn like that, and then flip your hand, make a slingshot. And then we have 2 loops here, 1 thumb loop, 1 index finger loop. We're going to go through the thumb loop from the bottom up, and then go through the index finger loop from top down. And then go through the thumb loop again, top down. Let go and pull the loop tight. Now we have 2 loops on the hook. We're going to continue casting on like that. So grab your yarn and flip it, 2 loops. We're going to go through the thumb loop first from the bottom up, and then index finger loop top down, and then thumb loop top down. Pull tight. Slingshot, thumb loop, bottom up, index finger loop, top down, and then thumb loop, top down. So you're just gonna continue casting on stitches like this. And your stitch number is the width of the scarf. So you can pretty much cast on as many loops as you want. And also the stitch number doesn't have to be a specific number. There's no requirement on the stitch number. It can be an even number or an odd number. It doesn't really matter. I initially did 40 stitches, but then after some rows I realized the scarf was too wide, so I restarted it and did 30 stitches. The width was okay, but I remembered I only have 1 ball of yarn. If I make my scarf too wide, then it's not going to be long enough. So I had to rib that as well, and then Eventually, I did 20 stitches only. And it measures about 17 centimeters, which is about 6.5 inches. So with this yarn, 20 stitches is this wide, but if your yarn is thinner or thicker than mine, 20 stitches might not get you this width. So if your yarn is thinner, then 20 stitches would be smaller. If your yarn is thicker, 20 stitches would be wider. So how many stitches you should cast on depends on your yarn thickness and your desired width of the scarf. If you can't tell whether your yarn is thicker or thinner than mine, again, I'm using 8mm needles. If you're using smaller needles, that means your yarn is thinner than mine, which means you'll need to cast on more stitches to reach the same width. And vice versa, if you're using needles thicker than this, then your yarn is probably thicker than mine as well. Then you won't need to cast on 20 stitches to reach this. You'll probably need to cast on fewer stitches. But really, if you're still not sure, you can try 20 stitches first. Work a couple of rows, then you'll roughly see how wide your scarf is gonna be. And if you don't like it, rip it, restart, cast on more stitches this time and see if you like it. Now I'm gonna turn my needle so I have the stitches on my left needle and there's no stitches on my right needle. So then we're gonna knit every single stitch. To knit a stitch, make sure you grab the yarn that's attached to the yarn ball. Insert your hook like that in the loop. Grab this yarn and then go around this needle at the back, which is the right needle. Pull this new loop through the old loop. And then take the old loop off the needle. So that's a knit stitch. We're going to do it again. Insert your needle like that in the loop. Grab the yarn, go around the needle at the back. So we create a new loop, and then we're going to pull it through the old loop like that. And then take the old loop off the left needle. Insert your needle in the loop. Create a new loop and pull it through the old one. And then take it off. Insert in the next stitch. Create a new loop. Pull it through the old one. And then take it off. So you're just gonna keep working like that for each stitch, and I'll see you at the end of the row. We're going to finish the last stitch as usual. So after you finish the last stitch, you're going to swap your needles like that. So all the stitches are on the left side again. And then you're going to repeat the last row. So insert your needle in the loop. Bring the yarn around the needle at the back to create a new loop. Then pull it through the old loop like that. And then take the old loop off. The first stitch of every row, make it as tight as you can. So next stitch, insert your needle in the loop, create a new loop, pull it through the old one, and then take it off the needle. And that's all you're going to do for the entire row, or you're going to do for the entire project as well. So you just keep knitting like this, and when you reach the end of the row, just swap your needles and then start a new row. So you're just going to continue repeating that row, work back and forth, and make your scarf longer. And I'll meet you back here once I reach my desired length. So you just continue working that row. You can make the scarf as long as you want. For me, I have to stop here because I used up that yarn ball. So here I finished that ball of yarn, but you need to leave some length so we can cast the stitches off. So to cast it off, you're going to knit the first 2 stitches. So knit the first one, and then knit one more. Then you grab the first loop and then pull it over the second one like that. Knit the next stitch and then pull the loop before it over the stitch we just knitted. And you just continue doing that. So knit one, pull the stitch before it over, so you continue doing that to the end of the row. So when you have 1 stitch left, you're going to knit that stitch and then pull the loop before it over and grab that loop. And then pull the yarn through it. And then in the end, we need to weave this and this in the stitches. So I'm basically just mimicking these little bumps. Like that. So I'm kind of duplicating it and then come behind the next stitch . So I just duplicated these bumps. And then when I reach the end, I'll turn around and go between these bumps and duplicate these ones. By the way, this is just what I do. You don't have to do exactly the same. It's all about hiding your yarn tail better. So just do whatever you feel is right. In the end, I'll just tie a knot with the yarn but you don't have to leave your tail so short. If you have extra length here, you can finish the knot more easily, and then you can cut the extra length off. And once I got the knot down, I can cut this quite short, like that. And then you're going to do the same thing for this tail as well. And when you finish that, your scarf is done.